is going on, everybody? As always, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. Thank you for sharing. I truly, truly appreciate it. There is no amount of gratitude that I can express to you all in the sense of you just being loving and accepting people. Let me start by saying I apologize for the hiatus. I've been in a sense of trying to get some form of a studio together, a foundational area that I can come to just for quality sound and things of that nature. So forgive me. And with that being said, that's absolutely going to be a perfect transition into what we're going to talk about today, which is forgiveness. Now, that's broad, isn't it? Forgiveness. We hear it all the time. Oh, forgive him. Oh, forgive her. Forgive your parents. Forgive that person for cutting you off. Forgive your boss for doing what they did. But let's take a turn into ourselves for a minute when it comes to forgiveness. Because that's the hardest thing, at least for me, because I'm stubborn in that sense. But on this journey, we have to learn to accept that being human is a part of the experience. It's not something that we can get away from. So when we make mistakes or when we hurt somebody or when we do something that we aren't really fond of and we start judging ourselves for it, the natural inclination is to kind of push it away, sweep it under the rug, and never look at it again, right? Over time, that starts to fester. And then something happens later on down the line that sparks that feeling of what happened back then. And then now you're faced with the question of, did you ever forgive yourself for that? Did you ever truly allow yourself compassion and love during that time? Forgiving yourself is a very intense process. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that you can do in an instant because we've been conditioned to believe that we have to do everything right, that we have to do everything by the books, that we can't make mistakes, otherwise the world is going to judge us and people are going to point finger at us and they're going to tell us, oh, you're a bad person, things of this nature. Is like the inner child in us is afraid of not being accepted and not being seen. So we do everything in our ability to ensure that we never make a mistake. And that's ludicrous when you think about it, because as long as you wake up, as long as you open your eyes, as I talk to you now, mistakes will be made all the time. As long as we're here in this realm, we're going to always make mistakes. That's why it's called a journey, because we're learning as we go through these times. So what is that process? How do we learn to forgive ourselves? What are the steps that we can take on a daily basis to implement forgiveness for us, even for the small things and the big things? One of the things that I would invite you all to do is to, aside from your gratitude, being grateful, having compassion and holding a safe space for yourself and being thankful for all the material things that you have and all of the spiritual lessons that you learned along the way, I would invite you to be more intentional with calling on the law of forgiveness. There's multiple universal laws, and I didn't even know myself that there were more than 9 of them, but I think there's like 40 to 50. Don't quote me on that, but there is an abundance of them. But one that sticks out to me, or one that has been sticking out to me lately, is the law of forgiveness. And the law of forgiveness basically states just that it's you giving yourself permission to be okay and accept that at times you will make mistakes. At times you will do things that are of the ego. You will do things that other people would consider egotistical things. The law of forgiveness is not only you forgiving those people, more importantly, you forgiving yourself. Because once you have learned to do that, you now have liberated yourself from expecting or hoping any sort of acknowledgement or recognition for what happened at that point in time between you and that person, between you and that event. Anything that you may not have known that you were expecting to receive at that point in time, when you call on the law of forgiveness, it lifts that weight off of your heart. I'm not saying that it's a safety net, because that's definitely not it, because as we know, it is a process, but Forgiveness is for you. It's for your heart. It's for your future. It's for your present. It's for your inner child. And once we are able to get to a headspace of understanding that forgiveness is for us, so that way we don't become bitter, so that way we don't become angry and hostile, not even towards that person, but just towards other people that may not even been directly involved within that situation. We just become hostile to the world. We become cynical. And obviously we know that that's not healthy and that's not the route that we want to take. So really learning to be more intentional with our forgiveness and not just saying I forgive just to forgive, because you will be tested. And will come a point in time where that something will happen again. You will see that person again, or you'll be in a place and then boom, you'll be faced with the opportunity of choosing to forgive or still choosing to hold on to that grudge. So how do you know if you've really forgiven yourself? How do you know if you've really forgiven that person? It's all based on how you feel in that moment. Does your heart start racing fast? Do you get angry? Are you ready to fight? Are you ready to curse them out? Are you ready to just storm out and cry? Whatever it may be, whatever reaction you have to that stimulus is a direct correlation to if you've forgiven yourself or not and that person. There's going to be so many times throughout your life where that you're going to think that you have healed from something, where that you're going to think you have forgiven yourself and that person within that situation. But the minute you walk into some place, or you even walking on the street and you see this person and your heart just drops into your ass, you're like, oh my goodness, I don't like this feeling. I Maybe I still need to look at this. Maybe this is something that I haven't healed from yet. And you can also tell just by how the way you speak about that situation. You may not be speaking about it directly and with extreme detail, but you could be having a conversation with somebody, and that person could bring something up to you. And after they have brought that up to you, you now start giving them advice or giving them some form of blueprint on how you would go about the situation. And just based on how you're speaking about it, because hearing yourself speak about something is healing. If you're speaking about it from a place of negativity or from a place of ego, that's a direct sign that you haven't forgiven yourself or that situation yet, or you haven't just let that time pass. So the law of forgiveness states that I call on the law of forgiveness. I am free from mistakes and the consequences of mistakes. I am under grace and not under karmic law. That is a quote from this lady who is amazing. I invite you all to read all of her books. Florence Scovel Shinn is her name. And I would invite you all to speak that once daily. It doesn't have to be when you wake up in the morning. It could be the middle of the day. But once you speak that, and all you have to do is speak it once, because that's how the universe works. A lot of us get into this headspace of constantly listening to affirmations, constantly trying to find a new stimulus, because maybe this could be the thing that changes whatever we think needs changing. But if you just speak on it once with intention, with love, with compassion, the universe will feel that. The universe will connect to your energetic field and frequency that you're sending out. And all you have to do is do it once. That in itself is powerful enough to liberate you from something that may have happened a decade ago. I was having a conversation with this lady, and she asked me, why does it seem like it's so easy for you to forgive? It's like, why does it seem like you can just speak so easily on forgiveness and be okay with speaking about something that may or may not still hurt you? And that was a really good question. And to share that with y'all, it's because I remember being at a place in my life where that I didn't understand how to forgive myself, nor did I even want to forgive that other person or that situation. I didn't want to. I felt like they are definitely aware of what they did, so they should be the ones to acknowledge and recognize their transgressions. It's not up to me to bring it up to them to be like, hey, you remember you did this, so I'm expecting you to give me an apology. I'm expecting you to acknowledge what you've done. Nah, because that may never come. They may never get to a point where they're self-aware enough to know what they did, how they hurt you, and just how much it affected you mentally, physically, and spiritually. They may never get to that point. And by us choosing to hold on to the pain of what happened, it's like drinking poison. It's like you wake up every day with the same thought of feeling that way, and it's just killing you on the inside. Knowing that we're trying to get to a place of healing, a place of peace within ourselves, but there's no way we can get to that place of peace if we don't learn how to be okay with what happened, forgive that person, but also forgive ourselves for putting ourselves in a situation for allowing that to happen. I know for sure that most people on this planet deal with that because it's not like you don't know. You always know. Women, especially, you all are extremely intuitive. That sixth sense beams like the sun. And us as men, we definitely need to tap more into that feminine energy because we have intuition as well, fellas. We just have to learn how to pay more attention to it. 9 times out of 10, we're usually just neglecting it, but I digress. Being able to know that they can't forgive you for you. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not sure. Maybe I am. It's our responsibility to liberate ourselves from anything that we're feeling, right? And we always know when we're getting into a situation that may be a little sticky, a situation that at the end of the day, our intuition is telling us is like, this might feel good now, and everything might be cool now, but hey, there's something here that you're seeing, but that you're choosing not to see. There's something here that's waving a flag, like, hey, it's like those wacky balloon dudes that be on the street when you're driving. They're just like, they're just waving and everything, and like we see this, we acknowledge it, we consciously are aware of this that's happening in front of us, but there's just something in us that has to allow us to go through that situation. And then a lot of people tend to, beat themselves up because like, man, I knew I shouldn't have done that, or I knew I shouldn't have put myself in that situation. But why did I allow that to happen? Why do we continue to allow that to happen? And in my assertion, I think that we get put in those situations because the universe is trying to teach us something. It's trying to get us to see something. It's trying to get us to be more intentional with how we go about maneuvering in our daily lives and how we go about making decisions. Most of the time, you may be making a decision on a whim. You may just think from your egotistical brain or from your logical brain that this may make sense, but how does it truly feel to you? Do you get that gut wrenching feeling in your stomach that says, hey, maybe we need to pull back from this? Do your hairs stand up on the back of your neck? Or are you like Spider-Man and do you just get that tingly sensation at the top of your head, at your crown chakra, that's like a buzzing that's saying, something might be happening right here. I'm not sure what it is, but something might be happening. I think that that's the universe's way of signaling to us energetically that something is afoot here. And it doesn't always have to be bad, and it's not always good. It's just an awareness. It's something that we have to pay more attention to when it does happen. So that way, whenever the outcome of that situation is, we can say that we deliberately decided to go along with whatever it was that happened at that point in time. We can't say that, oh, life did this to me, because that's kind of a cop out. And we are not in the mindset of being a victim. It's a growth mindset. We have to take acknowledgement and accountability for the decisions that we make. And that's the same with forgiving ourselves. We have to be the ones to acknowledge that we put ourselves in that situation, that that situation may not have been ideal. And we knew that from the beginning, but yet we still chose to take action on that because it was something that we need to go through at that point in time. We just didn't know that we need to have that experience. But what's more important is that after that experience is had, after we've healed, after we've forgiven ourselves for it, can we implore that same forgiveness, attention, and intention the next time a situation like that happens? Because there's always going to be tests. And the universe doesn't test you in a way of, oh, you got an A or you failed this test. Like that, there's no failing. The test is to see how are you evolving energetically, right? It's not fixated on the 3D. It's not fixated on what you can touch, feel, smell, or taste. It's all rooted in how does this situation feel right now? How are we evolving as a race energetically to connect with source? And that's all that is going to continue happening, because as we move through life, we're going to be approached with people, situations, and things that are going to reveal to us where we need some assistance, where we need a little bit of work. Not work in the sense of us being broken, but work in the sense of this is something that we need to pay more attention to. This is something that we need to look at a little bit more. So, with forgiveness being one of the more difficult things that we have to do, or one of the more difficult lessons that we have to learn while we're here in this life, I would say that it is one of the more beautiful lessons as well, because it's about our liberation. It's about love for ourselves at the end of the day. And I know that that may sound esoteric, but it's true. If we can't forgive ourselves for being human, we're going to have a really hard time while we're here. So you might as well just go ahead on and prepare yourself for that ride, player, because let me tell you, it is without a doubt one of the most interesting things that we will ever experience. And then once we get to a place where that we have a grasp on the process that works for us, because not everybody's forgiving process is the same. Some people need to let out that emotion, which is just built up toxins within the body. Some people need to let that out. Some people need to scream. Some people need to go to that person and say, hey, you did this, ABC, 1, 2, 3. And then now they can go on about their way and then heal with a detachment or a healthy distance from that person. Some people forgive without even speaking to that person for a little bit. They'll say, I need time to myself. I need to be with me. I need to listen to me. I need to listen to what's on my heart. I need to speak my truth to myself. That way I can get in the headspace of learning how to heal myself. It's different for everybody. I'm not saying that there is no one size fits all. But what I am saying is that once we learn the art of forgiving, the human experience becomes a little bit more beautiful. It becomes a little bit more abundant. It becomes a little bit more, becomes easier, because now we're not so fixated and operating from an egotistical place. Because once you learn to forgive yourself, you now move through life from a 5D perspective, in the sense of understanding that that person that did you wrong, that event that happened, that catalyst, whatever it may be, you understand that that person too is human. That person also is going through their own journey. That person also is becoming more aware of their toxic traits and their egotistical ways. And no, it's not always easy. But honoring those times where that you are being quote unquote your lesser self is a part of that process. Try not to look at those aspects of when you yell or get mad as quote unquote bad. Don't suppress that, because that's you being human. Once we learn to love all aspects of ourselves, the bad and the ugly, we can even look back on it and laugh, because we know that at the end of the day, we all have darkness. And coming back and making full circle with this quick talk with y'all, our inner child is a part of that. Our inner child is ultimately what we are healing through right now. We're learning to forgive ourselves for not having the level of awareness that we think we may have needed back then to be quote unquote successful. But our inner child doesn't need that. Our inner child needs that love, that unyielding, pure, transformational love. It's a part of us making full circle and coming back to ourselves. Before this year is out, I would invite you all to do something that is courageous, something that is brave. Anybody that may have hurt you this year, it doesn't even have to be this year, 2019, 2018. Anybody that may have hurt you, and this goes to family members, coworkers, anything of that nature. Anybody that may have hurt you, or that may have done you wrong, and you didn't tell them that they did you wrong, or you felt that they did you wrong, and you may still be harboring some pain and some unforgiveness within that aspect, call them up, text them, have a conversation with them, and tell them truthfully, wholeheartedly, and with the purest of intentions that you forgive them. First, tell yourself that you forgive you. Have this conversation with yourself first, and then find them, whoever it may be, and tell them that you forgive them. And watch what happens.